Breaking news from the land of Shinar. Construction was brought to a standstill at the huge project of the Tower of Babel by recent events. For those who don't know about the Tower of Babel, it is the latest building project by Nimrod, ruler of Shinar, which was meant to be built to the heavens. Now we go to our first eyewitness being interviewed by Peter.
Savannah, can you tell us about the recent events that have occurred in Shinar that have stopped the building of the Tower of Babel?
Some very peculiar things happened recently. I walked over to the brick-baking supervisor, and for some reason I could not understand because he was speaking a different language. Then I went back to where I was working, and none of us could understand each other. Eventually we formed groups with people who could understand each other. With these groups, we could no longer live together, let alone work.
Do you have any clues to what might have brought on this compulsory speaking of tongues?
Yes, in my religion I believe in one God who rules over all. My God has commanded people to fill the earth, and by staying together and building a tower, it angered him. He also might have felt that this tower was showing mankind's dominance. God then messed up our plan to reestablish his dominance. Later on, writings of this time will be looked back upon as history and will tell people about God and the story of his people.
Now you hear from another eyewitness.
We were just building our tower to God when everything went crazy. No one could understand each other, and everyone had to scatter. We couldn't continue with the construction of our tower because nobody could communicate. Nobody had any direction or instruction, so no one knew what they were supposed to do. Everyone scattered and went their separate ways. I guess the tower will never be finished now.
Genesis 11, 1-9 is surrounded by genealogies, time passing, families and nations forming, and people moving. In the span between Cain and Abel, many people moved east to form new religions, many pagan religions that surrounded the Israelites later on. The people grew away from God's precepts, and an idea formed that they could reach heaven by building a tower. The people wanted to show their dominance and superiority to all other nations by this architectural feat, but they had strayed from God, and they had the wrong motives. It is out of this nation that God called Abraham later to form a nation that was centered directly around him. This shows us that the shift of human nature and God's will. This shows us the shift of human nature and God's will to always draw us back.